Hey, here's Captain K. Ahoy, landlubbers, and welcome back to another episode of Factorio. Well, in this episode, let's see what we're gonna do. First of all, the train station is about to be finished. I'm still waiting for this little bit of a copper patch to be gone. That's why I placed down as many beacons as possible and as many speed modules as possible. So this one is now operating at plus 300%. So I hope this is gonna be cleaned out soon because I do need the copper. I'm running short on copper. Iron is looking good. I've got 2 iron trains. We still have this coal train. We're waiting for this coal patch here to finish so we can place down more solar panels and then start to use some of the other patches. And as you can see, I laid down a few more tracks. Basically, we now got a big double track loop with these intersections where I'm gonna feed in all of the resources from these patches and those back here, and well, basically everything within our Great Wall. Also, since the last episode, I've been doing some research. I've researched all of the combat robotics. So we now have the combat robotics, and I'm advancing a bit in combat robot damage. But in order to make use of those combat robots, we're gonna need the production. So I created this blueprint. Let me see, this way around is correct. There we go. So we can start making the destroyer capsules. Here comes the rest. And there we go. So the production of destroy capsules is now a thing. It's not perfect, but I'd say it's good enough. This one produces piercing rounds every 3 seconds. That should be enough to feed 2 of those defender capsules. They need 8 seconds, so basically every 6 seconds I got 1 piercing round magazine each. They only need 1. Now every 8 seconds they produce a capsule. That means every 16 seconds I got 2, and I need every 16 seconds I got 4, and I need 4 every 15 seconds. So with a little delay, I've got the defender capsules for the distractor capsules. They now need the red circuits, so let's hook that up. And also you notice this is more or less the end of my main bus. Basically there's not much left that I could automate. I could automate electric furnaces, but we don't need them right now, and if I do need more, or if I start to create, I don't know, production or smelting cells, or do the smelting on site, which is probably a good idea, then I'll either manually craft them or set up a factory with a few, well, using the logistic robots. And yeah, other than that, we got pretty much everything automated. The stuff, oh, I did upgrade to the Power Armor MK2 with 3 exoskeletons, room for 4 roboports, 1 more shield. I upgraded my battery to the MK2, but all of this stuff I'm manually creating as well, because once this grid is full, there is no need for me to have more of that. So let's go back down here. They should be producing. And why did they stop? Because they're lacking defender capsules. Well, and here is where I only got half of the needed ratio. Like, they produce 1 each 15 seconds, so each 15 seconds I got 2. And I would need 4 each 15 seconds. So in order for this destroy capsule assembling machine to be constantly producing, I would have to double all of this, or to mirror all of this on the other side, and then the ratios would be correct. But for right now, I'd say this is good enough. Yeah, so that's that. And what I'm also gonna do in this episode is gonna hook up a few of those patches and stations. Down here we have a big oil field, so I want to set up another station. And someone in the comments asked me how I would solve the problem that he wants basically an oil train arriving at the station and then unload a specific amount of barrels and then head on to the next oil station and unload a specific amount of barrels. And I think it's a neat idea, so let's see if we can figure this out, and then I'll use that also to make a short tutorial on that, an excerpt from this Let's Play. So let me fiddle around a bit and I'll be back. Eureka! And I figured it out, finally. Took me a while, I had to wrap my head around it and solve a few issues, but now I think I got a system that works reliably. And let's just hop in a train and give it a test ride, and if it works I'm gonna explain you how. So the train arrives, it's unloading the filled barrel, it's loading up the empty barrels, and then it's heading out of the station for the refill stations. Now the idea is that while the train is on the tracks, all the stations have time to fill or empty the barrels, and when the train arrives, like here, all he has to do is dump some new empty barrels, fresh empty barrels, and since there are none to pick up, as soon as he's dropped the specified amount, he's heading out of the station. Here he was dumping 40 barrels, at the next station he's dumping 60 barrels. Let's see, right now we have 210. He's now dumping 60 barrels, that should leave us with 150. 162 actually, maybe because there were some barrels in the system already. I think that was the case, 12 barrels were in the system already. But now with the filled barrels, he is heading back to the unloading station. And here he's gonna drop off the filled barrels, picking up the ones that have been emptied, and then he's heading out the station while these ones are being emptied without losing too much time. So in my opinion, a highly efficient system for the oil. As you saw, I have 4 factories for the unloading, but it still takes some time. I think it takes a second per barrel to fill. But with this I can have small but efficient stations. So let's hop out and let's check out how it works. So I've got this decider combinator here. He's checking the contents of those barrels, and as soon as the content hits 40, he's sending an output signal S. Well, I set this to 39 because I have 2 inserters, and I have fast inserters because the stack inserters aren't precise enough. And also you have to take into account the inserter capacity bonus. That means with each unloading they grab 4, right? So this number needs to be divisible by 4, and then you subtract 1, because that means with the last execution of their movement they hit 40 straight on and then they stop on point. So with those 40 barrels unloaded, this one sends the signal S and he sends it to this decider combinator, which is basically an SR latch. SR stands for set reset, and we can watch it now. As soon as he receives the signal S, he's outputting the signal S to himself, and then he stays locked. That's what's happening now. You see S2 drop down to S1 because we lost the other signal, but it stays locked until he resets. That was the reset, and the reset happens with this arithmetic combinator sending a negative signal of S for the reset. Now before we switch to that, let's see what happens once this latch is locked. So as long as he's outputting a signal S, those inserters stop, because they're only enabled if S is less than 1. That keeps those inserters from unloading more barrels, right? Now the reset condition, so that they start unloading again, is actually two conditions that have to match, and that's why I've placed down this decider combinator. That's basically an AND gate. So if R is bigger than 1, so if I have at least two signal R's, that's the AND condition, he's outputting the reset signal to the arithmetic combinator. It's a bit hard to see, but that's that wire. And the two conditions are, on one hand, I have this decider combinator that checks whether or not the chests are empty. And up here I've placed this rail signal that checks whether or not a train is present, and when there is no train present, it's green, and when it's green, it's outputting the signal R. So if there is no train and the chests are empty, that's our reset condition for that reset latch. So that's that bit. Now to this rail signal, I've only hooked up those two stack inserters. They run on the condition R is bigger than 0. That also means that as soon as the train leaves, they start unloading those chests. Now, the reset condition is not only the empty chests, because I want that when they remain full, I want the train to arrive and then head out without refilling this, because that means that when they're not empty, the SR latch doesn't reset and they remain blocked. But I want the train to leave anyway, because then they don't have to meet the 40 barrels condition. And that I did with another decider combinator here. So this decider combinator checks on two conditions again. It's another AND gate. We have this decider combinator here that checks whether those chests are empty. That means all of the full barrels have been loaded into the train. And the second condition is the SR latch. That means that the SR latch needs to be reset. No, the other way around. That the SR latch needs to be locked, right? And that's when this one sends the signal G, the go signal, to this station. That means train arrives, he's unloading the barrels. Once the condition is met, this one is locked. And if these are empty, he will head out. If he arrives again and they are not empty because they have piled up here, and that might happen in one of the next runs because our storage tank up here is empty. So if they don't get fully emptied, let's see, maybe that happens now. Yeah, so 10 barrels remain in here. That means the SR latch stays locked. So the train will only arrive, pick up the full barrels, and then immediately head out. And this way the system is self-balancing. And right now there is only one condition where we have a deadlock, and that's when they are empty, and the train arrives and he cannot deliver 40 barrels. Well, that basically means that we have to make sure that we always have enough empty barrels in the train, otherwise we have this deadlock situation. We could simply resolve that deadlock situation by placing down a pulse clock, sending a random pulse to that AND gate as well. That means even in that condition, if he stays here for too long, the clock will send a pulse and the train will head out anyway. But I didn't think it's necessary for this here, because just fill up enough empty barrels and you're fine. And the rough number for that is, if we have 40 barrels unloaded here that means we can in total have 40 barrels in here and 40 filled barrels. That is already 80 barrels. And then we just add a few extras. And we also have to take into account the barrels that are on this belt. I have no idea how many there are, but let's see. Let's collect all of them and count. So yeah, that's 30 barrels. So let's throw in an extra 30 barrels, right? That brings us up to 110. And then throw in, throw in a bit extra. So let's just say 3 times the number of barrels you want to unload here, and you're on the safe side and you should avoid a deadlock, right? Off camera, I've also claimed all of this oil patch, this huge oil patch. I haven't even counted how many pump checks I've placed down here. All the pump checks have the productivity modules so that we get the most oil out of them until they're empty. Then I'm going to replace those with speed modules to get as much of the 0.1 per second as possible. Here we've got exactly the same system, except for here the condition is 60 barrels, because this one is bigger, has also 4 factories. But yeah, so that's 60 times 3, it's 180 plus the 120, so 300 barrels, and we're on the safe side. So this train has been doing a few loops. It's filled with 80 barrels and it's still going. That means that it works. Now let's head to the unloading station and see what happens there in detail. Here we arrive, so let's jump out. So he's unloading the barrels, he's loaded up the empty barrels, and he's heading out. So here I had to set up things a bit different. This one here is the decider combinator that checks whether or not all of the barrels have been unloaded, right? This one you can ignore, that's from the smart train loader. That just assures that both chests are filled evenly. That's the smart train loader that you can see my other tutorial. So this decider combinator checks whether all barrels have been unloaded, and then he sends the go pulse to this decider combinator. And yeah, this one here, this decider combinator, I hooked up to the belt. That is to check whether or not all the barrels have been unloaded. So here I have stack inserters, they unload as quick as possible. Here I have stack inserters, they place it all on the belts, and you see as soon as the first barrels come down again, they pass by this transport belt and they send the content to this decider combinator, and that makes the train leave. So this is a lot simpler. I decided to go for this solution because it's very simple and straightforward. Of course, if you have a lot of barrels in here to unload, it might actually be that the first barrels come down here and trigger the train before everything was unloaded, but then you could just place down more stack inserters. Basically, you have to unload this train wagon before the first barrels come down again. But let's count. Now we've got 1 second, 2 seconds, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th. So you have 6 seconds time, and for everything right now there was more than enough. I had to deal with another problem here, and that was, what if for some reason a train arrives without any barrels, right? Or what happens if he has only so little barrels that there are no barrels coming down from the top again? I'm going to simulate this by running around the belt, right? So let's say you've placed down hundreds of these unloaders, and now you see none of the barrels made it back. But the train left anyway, and that's because of this little pulse clock. So here I have a arithmetic combinator that's counting up. It's feeding it into this decider combinator, and as long as the signal is below 999, he's outputting the input count, and if it's above 1000, he doesn't. That means that this clock is reset. It's counting up. On the right hand you can see 990, and now it reset. Right. So this is a clock that constantly counts up and then resets. And here I have a decider combinator that once this clock reaches 995, a little error margin because of lag issues or whatever, he's outputting a signal G as well, and that's fed into this AND gate. And as you can see, I have 3 wires, so if this condition is true and this or that condition, right? So it's an OR gate at the same time. As soon as 2 conditions are true, this one is sending the pulse. And with that, I made sure that there is never a train parked here. Even if he can't unload anything, he can still pick up the barrels and head out again to deliver those barrels. And yeah, that's it. And actually, I forgot the name, but thanks to the guy that came up with the question how I would solve the problem of a train unloading a certain amount of barrels at the station, because yeah, it's actually a really good idea. It's efficient, and if you want to check out the details on how to build this, I'm going to build one in a tutorial that I'm going to upload after this Let's Play. So with that set up, let's head on. So I'm right now really starving on resources. I desperately need more copper and more iron. That's why I built this rail line out here and hooked up those 2 nicely big patches. I'm gonna hook this one up too, and maybe those iron patches there. So let's see, this is going to be, that's east, right? That's copper east 1. East 2, let's call this east 3. And iron, let's say east 1, east 2. Or is this northeast? We could call these 2 northeast, so east 1, east 2, right? Let's see. Copper east 2. This one over here is iron east 1. And I desperately need to grab more belts and mining drills to hook this up. So let's set up the train. It's gonna be a 2-wagon train, although I've only hooked up 1 loading station so far, and my template is set to iron, so let's correct this. Let's switch to copper. There we go. So that the smart train loading works. Not that it would matter right now, but later it will. There we go, copper. Dup, 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 dup. I should really set up a blueprint for each type of ore, I guess, but I'm too lazy, which then in return makes me copy all of that stuff. So yeah, it's not a smart lazy, right? So let's give this a nice copperish color. I think it's red with a bit of green, like that, right? What was it, 75-ish? Something like that, I guess. No, it needs to be a bit brighter. 99, right? Let's check on the other copper train. Where is he? Yeah, 255, 99, that's my copper color. And you go to copper main, where is it? Here. And here you unload. Inventory empty. And you're gonna pick up from copper east 2 either time passed or inventory full. There we go. And now let's head home. Actually, you know what? I really... Sorry. Really should place down a few rail signals. Especially once I'm gonna hook up the iron station as well. But that's a thing that you shouldn't postpone, because all of a sudden you have a deadlock with trains and you don't know why. So, let's see. Simple. The incoming line, we have a rail chain signal. Let's place it here actually. And here the same. Incoming side, rail chain. And incoming side, rail chain. Outgoing rail signal, but I don't want a train to drive in here and then stop. That's why I'm gonna place it here. So only if this is clean. Outgoing here. Oh, I have the wrong type. There we go. Rail signal here. Come on, replace. There we go. Outgoing here. Outgoing there, and that's set. And up here, let's place one before and after the station. So that when a train is in here, another one can go in this loop. And the same here. One after the station. And one back here. There we go. So everything should be good now. So let's head home. And we're out of coal. Let's grab a few more. Wait for me! There we go. And copper is looking good. Now let's do the same thing with iron. I think I can do that off camera because I'm running terribly low on recording time. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. Check out the tutorial that I'm gonna make. If you liked this episode, please let me know by leaving a like. And if you never want to miss an episode, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and make sure that whatever you do, that you always have a hands with of water on your keel. Arr!